And he's just more, that part was pretty dope. Especially.
Yeah, I got to start experimenting with that stuff more often. I feel like you're really good at that. It's like finding talent, you know? Like, it's kind of hard to find those people. Yeah.
That done, but more because I'm just learning how to do it the right way. So it's like, got to get someone who's, but also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, it's cool. I don't really love the nitty gritty of it. Like, I've experimented a little bit, like, just to get my bearings, like, just because, like, in this world you kind of like need it, you know, especially when we're first getting started. But like, it's fun, I guess, but I don't think I would ever want to like be the guy like fully editing all my shit. Like, it's just monotonous. Like, it's just a lot of like, but it's fun. I mean, I would like to be the one like in charge of it, like telling the person what to do. You know what I mean?
Like,
you get it.
They get it. So that's where I'm kind of concept.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's very interesting concept. It's like that's the thing though, right? It's like there's so many things like you could get like pretty good at, but you have to kind of choose what you want. The things are that you to suck at. You have to like dial in on those things, just because like you can't be good at everything. Like, there's so much we could be like doing. It's interesting to try to balance all that stuff.
Live space. We can do it from our phone. This I just like to.
So do you have your like AirPods or headphones or?
Yeah.
So connect them to your phone.
Okay.
Start the Twitter space and then invite me, and I will explain from there. I don't know.
For like just the time being. Yeah, like you're done with Miami for now.
Time being. I'll be back down in Miami soon enough.
Yeah.
But we will see. Did you start it?
Oh, here we go. I don't
think it really matters. All right, so wait 1 sec. I'm just gonna like tweet it out real quick.
Yeah.
Cool.
You're already live.
Yeah, it'll be good. So I'll explain 1 sec how it works with like the echo and stuff. All right. So when you're done with that, I'll explain it. So mute your computer, not like not your mic, but the computer itself, like just on the keyboard, you know? And then on the spaces, put turn on the volume.
So you can hear me.
You see this? Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy, cool. Right?
Riverside's still recording, and it's gonna do this.
I didn't have Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Now you know video and
Twitter's fun.
Yeah.
Twitter's fun. I got absolutely shit on Twitter yesterday, but
for what? Well, I want to hear this. This is good timing. I like that I can just like carry my phone too.
Yeah,
I don't have to be on a tripod.
So yesterday I was like, there's this guy Ray Pete. So I've been doing like a lot of like health stuff lately, just because it's been working really well and I enjoy it. But
your transformation was insane, by the way. I was like 2 years. Yeah.
Whoa. But so I was like, oh, I want to do this thread on this guy Ray Pete. So I go on YouTube and I like put in this guy Ray Pete's name, and I watch like a bunch of YouTube videos on him, and I like just take a bunch of notes, and then I turn those notes into a Twitter thread, and I posted it yesterday. Mm-hmm. And one of the YouTube videos that I took notes on was made by this guy who's kind of popular on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting shit on for like apparently plagiarizing him. Like, I didn't like think I was. I was just like, I just had taken notes on a bunch of different videos.
Yeah.
But I had to fucking take it down. What's up, Marcus? Good to see you, brother. Had to take it down, dude. It was fucked. But it's all good. Twitter's a fun place.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, we could talk about growth on Twitter, because it's something that like recently I've kind of learned a lot about. So we could dive into that a little later. Yeah, probably less. I probably gained like 1,000 followers in the past 2 months.
Past 2 months. Okay. Yeah. So walk me.
So when I first was told to go on Twitter and try to use it to grow the pod, probably like last September, I had a podcast with this guy, Brett Ender. Shout out Brett. Brett's a great guy. He, I think he has like 90K on Twitter. He's a big Twitter guy. And he was, after our episode, he was kind of just like, dude, like, I think I think Twitter is something that you really use to grow the pod. Just start messing around with it. I'll retweet some of your stuff, help you out at first, and then from there you can I could help you out and learn, and you can learn a little bit. So through that, that was like month 1 and 2 of September and October, and like I was totally lost. Like I had no idea like what to write about, how to write on Twitter. Super hard. Kind of quit after the 2 months. Like I didn't get any growth whatsoever. And then I picked it up probably like a month and a half after that. So this is like 4 months into it now. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to like learn how to write for Twitter. So I took Dan Coe's 2-hour writer course. Cool. And then I was like, oh, so like this is how you format tweets. This is how you like pull the reader in. This is how you engage somebody. But it was like super basic stuff. Like it wasn't anything like life-changing. Like the biggest takeaway from that was this idea of your opening sentence, your tweet should be broken down into 3 parts. Your opener, which is it's a pull, then the middle section, which is the perspective, and then the last sentence which is the punch. So you pull the reader in, you give them the perspective, and then you give them the punchline. And taking on that format, it doesn't have to be like broken down into three different sentences, but it tends to work that way. Is you pull them in, you give them that perspective, and then you give them that punchline. And then through that, I was seeing that when you would do that and just keep that in mind when you would write tweets, it improved my Twitter writing a lot. But then that's a slow process because like you have like 30 followers and you're just kind of talking into the void. So I didn't really know how to go from that 0 to 1,000 range. Like to me, that was a bit of a mystery. So I kind of get creative with it. And I was like, I'm going to start doing these spaces every so often. So spaces is how I kind of developed that opening, that first, let's call it 1,000 followers, was through those spaces that kind of started to give me a bit of credibility. People started to know me because of that. I was having bigger creators on. So that was what the thing that got me to that first, like, let's call it 1,000. And then something that I've honed in on more recently is writing threads. Like I really struggled with that for a while. But what I've learned is to people, when you are first getting started, like you don't have any authority, right? Like you are not a person yet who like if you say, here are the 30 things that will get you blah, blah, blah. Like no one knows who you are. No one really cares who you are yet. So what you have to do is you have to steal authority from other people. So instead of writing a thread on the 30 things that will grow your personal brand, you write a thread on the 30 things that Iman Gadzhi used to grow his personal brand. So you steal Iman's authority, and then people then aren't reading the thread for you. They're reading the thread because they want to know what Iman did. And that just encapsulates a much larger audience. So stealing authority is a big thing that really, really helped my writing. And then the second one is writing about transformation. Like the transformation as a whole, most people where they are right now isn't where they ultimately want to be. So writing about people's stories that encapsulate this idea that who you are today isn't who you're going to be for the rest of your life is super powerful. I like the 2 that come to mind that really popped off for me was I wrote one on Dana White, like him losing weight and how he did it. I wrote one on Rick Rubin on kind of a similar topic. And then those 2 probably did like a combined 100,000, no, probably like 150, 200,000 views.
Really?
And yeah, and then the other threads I've had that have done well are stealing authority. So taking those 2 concepts, I think it's a really great way when you're first getting started to build credibility, because that's the biggest thing. Like you need to find a way to build credibility in order for people to listen to you. because like people don't want to read your writing if you're just some nobody. So by taking these guys' stuff and not stealing it, obviously, you're sharing what you're learning about them. It really helps you build credibility and grow.
Share.
I think it depends on the guest. Like, I know some people who have like a very active audience on Twitter. So for those guys, I think they really do enjoy it and prefer it. For other people who maybe aren't as active on Twitter, it could get a bit complicated. They're like, I don't even know what like a space is, like blah blah blah. So just kind of I like to just hold them mostly with other Twitter creators, and that really helps because they're excited to do that. Because the thing about it is, the cool thing about podcasting in general is if you look at like your favorite TV show, for example, like the sense of connection you feel with those characters, like you feel like those people are your friends, you feel like a kinship towards them. And the cool thing about podcasting is you spend more time with your favorite podcaster than you ever would with your favorite TV actor. And the thing about the TV actor is that TV actor is acting, and when you're on a podcast, you're being yourself. So these people develop like this real like love for you, and it's like a deep, this idea of like true fans. You develop true fans in a much more in a much easier way, like through spoken word and through like a long form podcast like this. So I think that people are aware of that, and they're excited to take that audience that they've been cultivating, but they're maybe not like so bought in on them as a person. But when they start listening to them on a podcast, they start to feel more of a kinship towards that person. Like, it's so funny. I think about this. Like, sometimes I'll listen to a podcast with a guest that maybe like initially I didn't really like going into the podcast. But I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast where by the end of the episode, I didn't like that guest as a person.
Yeah, right. That's
you know
such
what
a
I mean?
Cool. Like,
dude, I think more like curiosity with them. Like the first, I like the first example that came to mind was Iman Gadzi. Like a while ago when I was first learning about Iman, like the only content I would see of Iman was these super short form videos, and I didn't know anything about Iman's story. So like I would watch these stupid 1 minute TikTok clips of Iman, and I was like, dude, like kind of like fuck this guy. Like what is this? Yeah. But then listening to him like on a long form podcast, you start to like him. Like even Alex Hormozy, like I never even for a long time I would just like see his thumbnails on YouTube and be like, dude, I hate these dumbass thumbnails. But once you actually listen to a person in long form, you start to develop such a kinship and a bond with them. And I really am like so bullish on the fact that podcasting and just like long form, authentic videos, it's kind of how you develop these people who really feel connection with you as a creator.
This guy's like
Shuddy.
So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun process for sure. So to give a little background, like I was alone in Spain at the time when I was recording the 30 podcasts in 30 days.
Okay, Spain. Gotcha.
And I was not in a location where I knew anybody. I didn't like speak the language. So like for me in that time, I was really I was like grateful for podcasts because I was busy. Like I was really doing things, and I don't think if I had that thing that I was working hard for and I was excited to work hard for, I don't think I would have enjoyed myself as much because it would have been I would have just been a little lonely, I think. But because I had this thing that I was excited to work hard for, I was able to really enjoy myself. So I think that's probably the first lesson, is just like I was in a foreign place, in a place that otherwise I probably would have been a bit lonely, a bit lost in terms of like what to do and how to like make friends or how to just enjoy myself when I was there. But since I had this thing that I was grinding at, it allowed me to be focused and to kind of get the best of the both worlds. So from the first thing, I think it gave me something to enjoy and to be excited to work hard for. And I think that was a really interesting perspective and something initially I didn't realize going in. Another thing I kind of learned in the 30 days of doing it is just there's a certain compound effect from doing anything for a consistent amount of time. And you start to see it. Like you would have people who would show up for people who came for day 4, and then they would come for day 5, and then they would come for day 7, and then they would come for day 10. Like I see Austin and Marcus in the audience right now. Shout out them. They are 2 guys who like I really appreciate that, and they show up a lot for the podcast, and I appreciate it. And the more you do the podcast, the more you start to develop these people who whenever they're on Twitter and they see that you're live, they're like, oh shit, I want to go join and listen. So that's a really cool thing that I don't think people realize is just whenever you're going to do something deeply meaningful, there's a compound effect to it. And you have to stay in the game long enough to experience that compound effect. And I think that with anything, if you have a podcast and in your first year, only 2 people tell 2 friends about the podcast. So then you have 4 people who are listening to the podcast. And then those 4 people tell 4 more people about the podcast. And then that turns into you having 16 people listening to the podcast. And then if there's 16 people, and then it just goes on. And before you know it, you're kind of developing this audience. And it's like that hockey stick type of graph where you're at that point where you say like, this is meaningless, but it's right before that hockey stick level growth, because it is slow. It is slow at first, and it's slow for a while. But if you stay in the game long enough, you're going to get lucky. You just have to stay consistent enough to be able to cash in that compounded interest. So that idea was definitely honed in on during those 30 days. I definitely, even though 30 days is definitely not long enough to experience that compound interest, you start to just see like little bits of that. And you start to realize just slightly that the work that you're putting in is compounding. So that was a very exciting part of it. And then the third part was just like, when you do something every day for 30 days and you want to get good at it, or you want to start to grow a following, you expand your surface area for luck. So I had a podcast with this girl, Laura Acosta. And Laura only has like 4,000 followers on Twitter. She's awesome. We had a great episode. But what happened was she posted a tweet about 30 minutes before our podcast episode. And it got by the time our podcast was starting, it probably had like 500,000 views. And by the time our podcast was over, it had like 4 million views. So she had this tweet that went mega viral, like absolutely mega viral. But it was going mega viral while we were live. So anytime anyone would scroll past her tweet, they would see that she was live doing a Twitter space. So all these people were joining the Twitter space. And I think we had about 1,500 people in the Twitter space. And it resulted in 400 followers for me.
Say less. And not $1 in ad spend, right? Let's make that clear.
Yes, exactly.
This wasn't
but the thing about it is like that's a story. Yeah.
Where it's like, no, it's sick,
but
dude.
The thing about it that's so cool is that like it's 100% luck, right? Like that situation is 100% luck. But an interesting concept I've been thinking about, and that Day brought into awareness, was we tend to put ourselves in situations that either expand or improve our odds to get lucky, or we put ourselves in situations that improve our odds for us to get unlucky, right? So I was playing golf a few weeks ago with a friend, and he was like, dude, did you hear XY from high school got drug mugged and dropped on the side of the highway 2 weeks ago? And I was like, fuck, dude, that's so unlucky. Like, whatever, that's crazy. And he starts telling me the story. And it turns out it was like 6 a.m. He was pissed drunk by himself in a bad part of town, bar hopping. All of his friends had already went home, and he had just put himself, although it's a totally unlucky situation, he had put himself in a situation where those odds were a lot higher that something bad and something unlucky would happen. But the reverse of that is equally as true. Like if you're doing great habits day in and day out, and even if you're not perfectly consistent with them, if you're trending in the right direction, you can put yourself in a situation where you get lucky and you happen to be talking about something that's about to blow up. And then next thing you know, you're that guy for that topic. Like Iman Gadzhi, for example. One of the reasons why he blew up initially was he had started talking. He had this YouTube channel. No one was watching. He was posting about everything, like fitness, trying to make money. He was like a 15-year-old kid with no experience, but he was just posting daily and consistently.
Yeah.
And then he started sharing about how he was trying to make money through Facebook ads. And just so happened that Facebook ads started to pop off and no one was really talking about them. And Iman became this guy that people looked to for Facebook ads. And then he was able to create a course on Facebook ads and make like $500,000 when he was like 16 years old. And then that snowballed into all the stuff he's doing now. So on one hand, it's like he got lucky. But on the other hand, it's like he put himself in that situation to get lucky. So I think it's just a great reminder, like that everything we're doing it's like we can't control what happens to us, but we can control the odds somewhat. So to put yourself in situations to get lucky is a concept that I'm really trying to hone in on, and I was brought into focus through those last 30 days. I want to say something I didn't already say, so I'm gonna need a second here. Dude, honestly, I think it's just really like having something. I know I said it already, but I want to hammer it away because I touched on it quickly. It's just this idea of having something you're excited to work hard for. And I played sports all throughout high school, and a little bit in college. And then once I stopped playing for a little bit, I like didn't know what to do with myself. And I thought I really missed baseball. Like I thought that was the thing that I was lacking, but it was really just something that I was excited to work hard for. So having this thing that you are excited to show up every day for and show up in a way where the night before you're thinking about it, you're excited for it. I think that's so powerful and gives us a lot of direction and meaning. And allows you to focus your energy in a way. And a lot of us, like, it's not that we lack discipline, we're just lacking that clarity, kind of piggybacking off the point that you were saying. Like when you're excited to work hard for something, it doesn't require this massive amount of discipline because you're excited for it. You want to be showing up every day. So I think that just trying relentlessly to find a thing that you're excited to work hard for is an idea that I think we all could kind of take away from, because I couldn't put words to that for a long time. Like I thought I was just like in love with baseball and needed to keep playing, but it wasn't baseball particularly. It was just this feeling of having something you were excited to grind for. And to that point, like I think about this, I think people a lot of times watch like someone like David Goggins, and they get this perspective, or they get this feeling that they need to go from the person they are to like this ultra disciplined, like incredibly like I'm gonna run 8 miles every single day. They try to go 0 to 100, but they don't realize that like these things happen slowly. Like these habits improve slowly. I feel like the gym is the perfect analogy for this. Like you don't go to the gym for the first time and try to lift 225 pounds on the bench press. Like that is something that you work up to, you show up weekly for, and you slowly but surely make your way there. And I think about this with diet as well. Like for a long time, I was trying to be like so perfect with my diet. And I would definitely like fall short of that, and I would beat myself up for it. But like now looking back, like my diet's kind of on autopilot today, and it's so much better than it was when I was trying so hard. And it's because like it's a slow process. It's a slow adjustment, and you just keep getting better and better, and you stop wanting to be the guy who sleeps in. You start wanting to be the guy who wakes up early. Like all these things, they don't happen overnight. But realizing and appreciating the fact that it's a slow burn, and you have to just keep going and not trying to make it too hard for yourself at the beginning it's such an important point, because we all try to go 0 to 100 a little too fast. And slowing down and taking these things slow and improving maybe slower than even you feel like you want to, but it's easy enough for you to stay consistent with it, is so important. And it's I don't think people realize enough that you can get so much farther by just being consistent instead of trying to be intense. Yeah, I think that. So I'm about 3 weeks away from launching my first business. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Time will tell. Just kind of finishing up the website design process right now. So TBD on that. We will see how that progresses, and I'll keep that a little vague at the moment.
Fair.
But in terms of like the specific skill set, like that's the brand is going to require a lot of marketing stuff. So it would be fun. It's going to be fun to learn about that process, but it's not something that by any means do I consider myself an expert in or even knowledgeable in. So it will be cool, and I suspect that it's going to affect all aspects of the stuff that I'm doing. So I think that getting a really good grasp on marketing is going to positively affect the podcast and the personal brand, and just starting to understand the fundamentals of marketing. I suspect it's going to translate to all domains. So I'm excited to see when I really put a focus on that, what that's going to be. But I think that's really it. Just trying to hone in on marketing. And I'm kind of in those day one stages, like you said. So time will tell, and we will see. But I think things like sales, marketing, just really trying to hammer those fundamentals away, always translate to almost anything that you do. I think those are almost these meta skills. I was thinking today about like I've been watching this YouTube channel called Charisma on Command, which I highly recommend everyone go check out.
Charisma on Command, I like that. Okay.
Charisma on Command, and it just teaches you like these basic social skills or social hacks almost to improve conversation and improve your ability to interact with people. And there's some of them are so simple and so easy, but it translates like so well to real life. And like the example I was thinking about today was when you're at like a party or something and someone asks you, "Oh, where are you from?" Most people would just say, "Oh, I'm from New Jersey." But that doesn't, if they're not from New Jersey, that doesn't give them anything to like cling on to.
Yeah.
Because everyone's looking to like build a conversation. So like giving people like touch points almost to hone in on, like if instead of saying like, "Oh, I'm from New Jersey," being like, "Oh, I live in New Jersey now, but I moved around a ton growing up, and I think I might move to Australia in a few years, so time will tell." That just gives them so many more things to like bring up and talk about. And like there's so many things like that are so simple, but have such a big impact. And I don't even know why I just brought that up, but Charisma on Command, highly recommend everyone go check out that YouTube channel. Really improves your social skills super quickly without a lot of effort. It's a interesting thing to check out. Yeah, so I studied abroad in Madrid the year prior to going out. And while I was there, it was the first time I was kind of like living alone and being much more independent than I had been in the past. And through that brought the clarity of doing the podcast. And it was there that I realized that the podcast was something that I wanted to do. And I wanted to actually like go all in on. It was funny. It was a scary feeling. I remember being in Madrid and thinking that the pursuit would be almost next to impossible to execute. And it was an interesting time period for me to kind of realize that. And I think a lot of those insights around what I wanted to want came from that time in solitude. So I think initially I was seeking a little bit more of that, like seeking like, what is it that I wanted to do? What is it? It was just, I was seeking a little bit more clarity. And I think a lot of that tends to come when you're in solitude. And that's why Aaron Rodgers and all these guys do these like things like ayahuasca or darkness retreats and all these crazy like silent retreats, all this type of stuff. It's because there's a certain amount of learning about yourself that comes when you're just like a little alone. You start to see what you want to do instead of what other people want you to do. So I think that's what initially I was seeking. And yeah, when I went out there, I think I just like, I don't think much of that really came the second time around. And my takeaway with that was I was just feeling more aligned with the things I was doing. Like I was actually feeling like, I think I developed this deeper sense of like, you're on the path, like you're doing the right things and you're taking the right steps. But the Europe trip as a whole was just an interesting thing. Like I didn't really have great Wi-Fi and like all these things. So a lot of the convenient stuff of the United States was pulled away, and it made recording a little harder. It made doing deep work a little harder. But I think that resistance was helpful in many ways. Like you're able to, like there was a lot of times where it was like, I can't even Google things because my network is too slow. So if I want to do work, I'm just going to have to pull out a notebook and write stuff down. So I think that there's a lot to be said for the fact of when you don't have great internet access, you're able to just kind of write and learn a little bit more of yourself in a more authentic way than when you have access to the internet and you are able to get distracted easier. So there's a lot to be said when you're just like in solitude and you don't have the modern conveniences of things like TikTok and social media to help you or to numb the thoughts in your head. Like you have to really sit with those things at times. So it's just some interesting lessons, and I think people should explore it for themselves. But in the meta, I really don't think I came out of it much different than the person I came into it with. And I think that was just I think that just made me realize that like you're on the path, like you're doing the thing. So keep up. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but yeah.
No, that's you want to share?
I mean, dude, what's so funny is like I think I'm really trying to figure out like how I can get guests. So in that process, obviously, I hit up a lot of people to do episodes, and a lot of people said yes, and then I think our DMs either got lost or they somewhat forgot about it or whatever. So trying like now, I'm like, I had all these people and like even some like really, really big people that I was like really excited to record with, who said yes and have said yes. But getting them from yes to on the calendar is something I'm trying to figure out still. It's like I had like Danco and Soulbra and like these guys who are pretty big in the space who were like, let's do it, but I can't get them on the calendar yet, so we're gonna have to try to figure that out. And that's been something I've been thinking about lately, is like, how can I bring people, how can I get the time between yes to on the calendar shortened? And
dude, I'm in the same boat. I think it took a couple big guys.
I mean, it's so funny, like just thinking back on a year from now, I think we all kind of sometimes have that sense of like a little bit of cringe, like looking back at your past self. But I think that, excuse me, I'm excited with how the year has played out. Like it's been interesting to think about where I was at that point 1 year ago, and like a lot of the fun and cool guests and conversations I've had, just like really the growth as a host and as a podcaster was probably the thing that I'm most happy about and excited about. Like looking back at listening back to a conversation from a year ago versus today, I really am proud of like my growth as a host and my ability to hold the space for a conversation. And that's just a skill that happens naturally from showing up every day. So I think I'm just proud of the fact that I stayed consistent enough to be able to start to notice the benefits it has produced in my ability to converse. And it's been fun to see what happens when you consistently show up. And I'm just excited to see how that keeps compounding when you keep showing up. Like it's been fun to see for the year, but I'm really excited for what that'll look like 2 years from now or 3 years from now. So it's a fun game.
It's something people the theme today, sure. Which has been
I had this podcast with this guy Sean Casey, who I think he has like 2 million on TikTok. And when we were talking about TikTok and growth on TikTok, he was like, yeah, I mean, by video, or he was like, by month 8, I had like whatever 300,000 followers, or I had a video that had 1 million views, whatever. And he was like, it had nothing to do though with like that video in particular. It was all the reps and all those videos that had 30 views, 40 views, like all of these, just showing up consistently was what allowed him and what allows all of us to have success in that video 300 that goes off and goes mega viral. Like it's just this idea that it has nothing to do with that 300th episode. It's all about those first 299 and showing up every day and getting better so that you're able to get lucky, like we were saying before. Like it's really just a great reminder for when you're trying to grow and you're trying to grow as a person and grow on social media. Like it's just a daily commitment to showing up every day, and before you know it, you're going to see some positives from that.
If this was easy, didn't happen by coincidence. That's pretty,
100%.
Yeah, cool, dude.
And shout out Patrick, by the way, for listening to us for this conversation.
I know Patrick's been grinding with us today.
I appreciate it, Pat. If you have any questions or want to hop on stage here, would be happy to have you on. If you have anything you want to say here, we could add you as a speaker. Just send like an emoji if you want.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's like some of the fun stuff about Twitter and Twitter Spaces is like sometimes you'll get a person who comes up and asks some questions, and that's always fun and a different perspective, and it's cool to hear from the audience at times.
Maybe
I got it. I'll do it.
Okay.
Pat, I invited you to speak. If you'd like, feel free to hop in. But Jack, anything with you, brother? Anything that you are excited about working on, or anything next? Now, since you're back into running and back into the swing of things.
It's really just being a lot of people
to that point.
Into training. Yeah.
To that point, like I was listening to a podcast today with Nick Bear, who
love him.
For those that don't know, he's like a hybrid athlete, big runner, runs marathons, ultra marathons, and what he was talking about is how running for him, since he does it, he wakes up every morning bright and early when the sun still is set and it's dark out, and he runs for at least an hour a day, and he doesn't bring his phone, he's not listening to music, and he says that all of his insights and everything, that all his perspectives on business and life and his family really come from running, and he describes it as this more meditative aspect or meditative activity that has brought about a lot of his wisdom in a way. And I think it's a really cool underrated thing about training without a phone and about running without a phone. It's cool the lessons and downloads you get from spending time alone, and when you do that in motion, I think there's an additional added aspect there that really helps. I think your AirPods are dying. We're starting to.
If you had anything,
Pat, send a thumbs up emoji or thumbs down emoji if you want to get up here and speak. If not, no worries.
Thumbs down.
Well,
okay,
brother,
cool.
It was great. We really appreciate you listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope you took some value out of it. And feel free to DM either of us. We're both pretty active in the DMs, and if you ever need anything, let me know. Appreciate it. Jack, appreciate you, brother, for hosting this today.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yo.